Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you my January wrap-up. Now I can't believe it's the end of January already. We're already a month into the new year. So the first book that I read for this month, for the month of January, is Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. This is the third book in the Dark Artifices series, and I don't know, it's been a while since I read the book before this one. I think I read it once, like the moment it came out or around the same time it came out. So it's been a good year since I, read it. And I've liked Cassandra Clare's work, especially her newer releases, because I find that her newer releases are much more well written, and there's such a build up to the Shadowhunter world that I didn't expect and didn't see coming. So I really enjoyed it. Her first series, the Mortal Instruments series, is that what it's called? I enjoyed those, but I feel like if I had, I think I already mentioned this in one video, if I had read it like now or reread it now, I probably wouldn't like it as much as I did before. But that being said, her newer, as I said, her newer writings, her newer releases I like better. But this book is more of a 3.5, 3.75 stars for me. I remember really loving the characters and really caring about their stories and like wanting them to have a happy ending. And I don't know, I felt like we didn't really get to see much of it here. Like the characters and their relationship. That's really what hooked me in this series. And I don't know, I felt like the characters took a step back and I missed that. And even I felt like there wasn't much to the actual resolution to the main problem that we've had since the beginning of the series. There's not much focus here on it. I felt like everything happened in the last few pages. And with a lot of Cassandra Clare's books, it felt predictable. Like I saw how things were going to happen, or I expected some of the things to happen, and there were like not so subtle hints about certain things that I'm just like, oh, okay, all right. I don't know. I wanted to love the book because I really enjoyed the first two books here and the Infernal Devices series, the series that came before this. And I don't know. But I'm very curious to see what's going to happen next, because that cliffhanger at the end is preparing us, introducing us to a whole new side to this world again. And that's what I've really enjoyed about her books, the past few releases that she had. So I'm still going to continue reading the rest of her books, but this was a bit of a disappointment to me. I wanted to love it, and it's like what, 900 pages, 912 pages. So the second book that I read is something that I've wanted to read for so long, and I wasn't planning on reading it this soon or now-ish, because I was planning on reading her first series that I remember enjoying the first book. It's Strange Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I was planning on rereading Dreams of Gods and Monsters. Oh no, that's the last book. That series, I remember reading the first book the year it released, and it took a while for all the books to come out, so I eventually just pushed it back, and I forgot about it. And then it got hyped, and I was like, I don't want to read it while it's being hyped. I want to enjoy it as I would have normally if I continued reading the book as they were released. So I will be rereading that sometime soon. I'm planning on buying like actual physical books of it instead of just borrowing. So I'm gonna read that series. But anyway, I'm gonna be talking about Strange Dreamer right now. This is her second series release. This is only a duology, by the way, which is great. And I really enjoy this. I missed her beautiful writing, and I don't know. I just, with a lot of YA books, the thing about them is that they're not very, I wouldn't say badly written, but it's just they're a little simple and pretty straight to the point. There's not a lot of very beautiful words, beautiful sentences, paragraphs, and kind of those kinds of things. That not a lot of frilly, I don't want to say frilly, but I that kind of beautiful, captivating writing, you don't see that a lot in YA books. And the main genre that I read is YA. So I don't know, I don't really get a lot of that, even with fantasy books. That's why I enjoy a lot of more new adult fantasy books. I still enjoy, YA fantasy, but I feel like I'm changing more now to more beautifully written books than what I've been reading for the past years. So this was really a change, like a really refreshing change. And I remember really loving her first book. I remember just really loving her writing there, and it's this time it's no different. I still really love this, and the world is also really, really beautiful, and that's also one thing that I remembered from reading Daughter's Mockingbird. So I really love this. I rated it a 5 out of 5 stars, obviously. And of course, I read the sequel, Muse of Nightmares, and it's a 4.5-star read for me. I love the first book more. I felt like the main conflict we were introduced, like in the last book that we're going to tackle here, I felt like we didn't really get much of it here. That's why I didn't rate a full 5 stars. But it's still very nerve-wracking because there's a lot of things that we get introduced to in this world that I felt like it deserves a companion series so that we can talk about this. We get introduced to new characters and their stories, and I'm so interested in their stories as well. I need their own like novellas or something, and I want more from this world because this world is so vast. We were told just how big it might be, it can be, it is, and I want more from this world. And I don't want to say anything more because spoilers. So just know that I really love the series and I want more from it. The fourth book that I read is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Now, a lot of people love this book, and I was a little apprehensive, but at the same time excited approaching this book. This is about a murder that happens in a group of friends that are under the study of a certain professor, and there's only like 5. There's 5 of them. Initially there were 4, and then another person got added, and one of them dies, and it's the story around that person's death and how it came to be and what these students' roles are in the death of that person. So it sounds very mysterious, and it is. At first it felt like we're going to get a lot from this book. Slow in that it builds up really nicely, but not slow in that it feels like nothing's happening. This is very dense. Like, this is 400 plus pages, 500 pages, 559 pages, and the font is small, as you can see, and we just get so much from this book, especially from the characters as well. And a lot of people say that the characters aren't very likable, and that's true, but I don't really hate them per se. I wouldn't want to be friends with them, but I wouldn't like hate their guts or something. They're not evil people. They're just very detached and apathetic in a way, you could say. So with that being said, the relationships in this book between those characters, especially with the addition of a new person, which that person is the one we're following, Richard? Yeah, following, and that we're reading the perspective from. It's his telling the story. And even he is not very likable. Like, he makes very questionable decisions. So I really enjoyed this book. At first I was like, oh, it's going to take me so long to read. I was just very anxious to find out what's going to happen and how everything leads to the death and everything that surrounds it. And this is not like a book revealing what happened. Not necessarily. That's not like the main point of this story. You're introduced to these people, and you get to decide, I mean, in your own way, you get to decide how you're going to feel towards these people who aren't very likable, and how you're going to feel about the death of one person in this group of friends. If you're going to feel bad for it, or if you understood how everything came to be, or you're going to hate them for their decisions, and you're probably going to say this person deserves it. I don't know. It's going to be up to you as a reader. Yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I rated it 4.5 stars, 4 stars, because even though I really enjoyed it, I felt like I wanted more from the characters as well. It's hard to review a book without spoiling it. So yeah, just pretty much everyone in this book is not very likable, and I think that's part of why I didn't really rate it a full 5 stars. I felt like there should be someone that's at least, you know, likable, even just on the wings, and be like, oh, at least there's this person who's very much detached from this world of negativeness and pessimism and apathy, you know? But yeah, I still really enjoyed this book. I highly, highly recommend that you read this if you enjoy those kinds of mysteries. Gonna keep you apprehensive all throughout reading this. So, and then after that, I read Empress of All Seasons by Emiko Jean. This one I didn't really like, especially after reading The Secret History with like its denseness and its fullness of, especially with the characters and their worlds. I felt like this was like, eh. I mean, this is 300 pages, 384 pages. The font is big, so you don't really get a lot. And it's insta-love, which I don't think anybody really likes, except for when it's executed nicely. And you really rarely encounter that in insta-loves. And I don't know, this is a standalone, and I wouldn't want to read, you know, a sequel anyway. That sounds mean, but you know, this is a very nice standalone. It doesn't feel like this deserves a sequel, especially, you know, saying that we don't really get much from this. But at the same time, I felt like there could be more to this story. This could have easily been a 500, 600 fantasy standalone with, you know, the romance nicely written out, the conflict not so straightforward. I don't know. And the real solution not so straightforward. I wanted more because this world there's a lot to this world that could be developed and just made more. I'm really disappointed. I wanted to love this book. This is a fantasy, Japanese inspired fantasy, and I wanted to love it, but I didn't. So, oh, I rated this 2 stars. Did I say 3 stars? This is 2 stars. This is 2 stars. And the last book that I read for the month of January is Young Jane Young by Gabrielle Zevin. Now, at first, this was very confusing for me because I didn't expect it to be multi-perspective, but it is. I didn't know it was going to be multi-perspective. So, yeah. But I like it. I don't love it. A lot of people, there's like mixed reviews on this, but I felt like more people love it. At the same time, I felt like I wanted more from the story. You can see how The Secret History definitely affected the next few books that I've read because I wanted more. Seeing as that book is very full and dense, I wanted more from the books that I read after it. I'm comparing everything to it ever since I read that, but at the same time, I understand that these are not the same books. I don't know. But yeah, this book I liked. I felt like a lot of people say that it's talking also about slut shaming, and that's true. We are talking about that here because the character we're following Aviva Grossman. She gets into an affair with a married congressman. They have a very large age gap. Like, she's 20 when the affair happened, and I think the congressman is around her parents' age. So, you know how that can be. And it follows different perspectives of 4 women, I believe, that are in this book. We have Aviva Grossman, Aviva's mom, the politician's wife, and no, there's 5. Who is the? I can't remember, but yeah, this is multiple perspective, and that's what really confused me in the beginning because I was like, wait, I thought it was going to be like the person who got into affair, Aviva, who's going to be telling the story, but it's the mother. And I thought it was changing between chapters. I was just really confused because I didn't know it was going to be from different perspectives. So at the beginning I was like, I don't understand. I didn't really enjoy reading it like the first 5-6 chapters, but eventually when I realized, oh, this is going to be from different perspectives, I enjoyed it a little bit more. But still, I felt like this book could have just focused on Aviva, focusing on her, and maybe a little bit on the parent and the wife, on the mother and the wife, but I felt like I wanted more from her story and her perspective, because this book is pretty much telling her story and the decisions and the effects of the decisions that she has decided to make. And I felt like we could have gotten a much better picture of her decisions and how she came to those decisions if it was being told as her story and not just from other people's perspective around her. Maybe like third point of view. I just wanted it to be a little bit different than it is. I felt like I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. And I feel like we didn't really talk about so much about slut shaming and how the internet can be, especially in terms of slut shaming, and how it's always going to be the girl who's the slut, but the guy isn't very much talked about, because women are perceived to be pure and should be pure, and if they're not, they're sluts. And even if the guy is married and he's older and he should be the one, you know, pushing this girl away and not letting her do these decisions, it's still not like they don't really realize that the one in power in this relationship is the guy, because he's older, he has a wife, and he's a congress. You know, I felt like I wanted a very nice discussion of slut shaming and the whole affair thing that's going on, and the politics as well that's related to it. I mean, the wife stayed with the congressman. I don't think that's a spoiler. It's pretty much mentioned somewhere in the book within like 150 to 200 pages, because it does go back and forth in perspective and like telling as well, from before the affair happened, after it happened, and while it was happening. Yeah, I wanted more from this book. I mean, it's short. It could have been longer and definitely told more from and around Aviva's perspective, because it is her story. It's like 294 pages, not even 300. So I felt like it could have easily gotten like 100, 150, maybe 200 more pages, so that we can get more from this. Those are the 6 books that I read for the month of January. Overall, my reading month for January, my first reading month, is okay. I mean, I have Muse of Nightmares, Muse of Nightmares, and The Secret History, which I rated pretty much around in the 5 stars area. Queen of Air and Darkness is also like 4 stars. But yeah, it's an okay reading month. I think it's The Secret History who really spoiled me for the books. I felt like I would have liked a little bit more of the books if I hadn't read Secret History before it. I was just comparing everything to it. But at the same time, I know that I wasn't really going to love those books, even if I didn't read Secret History. So yeah, that is it for my reading month. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me what you guys think of the books that I've read, if you agree with my perspective and my opinions, and if you guys have read these books, what do you think about them as well, and if you're planning on reading them as well, if I've influenced you to read or to not read, and to have different expectations or not, whatever, tell me in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. You can check out some of my other videos right here, and I will see you on my next video. Bye!